is it time to start talking about Harbaugh and the Ravens the same way we talk about Tomlin and the Steelers? Because I'll be fair and say that I don't think either of these coaches should be on the hot seat because, frankly, they consistently win. But if the measure of success for the Steelers organization has not been met by Mike Tomlin and the fact that they haven't been successful enough for quite a while, couldn't you say the same thing? Like, is it time to actually put Harbaugh on a hot seat? Because we talk a lot about when does the messaging get stale? Okay, I don't know the exact answer for that. I don't think that there's a real formula for it, but the details and the results will at some point speak for themselves. And I'm watching a Ravens team that just, for whatever reason, consistently in this game thought that it was a really good idea to not have Derrick Henry on the field in third and fourth and short. Like, I don't understand it. There are enough things that went wrong in this game that I don't understand. I don't understand why their defense isn't getting better week to week. I don't understand why their offense isn't able to, I don't know, run the tush push as well as the Eagles can, considering the legs that they have there with Derrick Henry. I don't understand why the Ravens are struggling the way the Ravens are struggling, but I think it's pretty real to just acknowledge the fact that the way they lost this game, they couldn't do anything against the Chiefs defense. Their offense looked just out of whack the entire time, and their defense on the field just got the snot kicked out of them over and over again. Like, is there a spot where we look around and say, maybe the fix in Baltimore actually has to come at the highest possible level?
I think we can have a hot seat conversation. But I also would like to say that I think every hot seat conversation comes with nuance and that there are varying degrees of heat to hot seat conversations, right? Because we're talking about Brian Callahan and Tennessee and how his seat is hot, but it is significantly hotter. It is hot to the touch. It is scalding in Tennessee. That's much different than what it is in Baltimore. I think the hot seat conversation can be you're about to be fired or we need more from you. And I think that's the John Harbaugh conversation is we need more from you. We need more from this team. Because if you want to look at it from the glass half full perspective, you can say, okay, well, it's not every week that we're going to play a Super Bowl contender. And the Ravens have played legitimate Super Bowl contenders in 3 of the first 4 weeks of the season. It's not every single week that Derrick Henry is going to fumble the football or that Lamar Jackson is going to throw an interception and fumble and hurt his hamstring. We'll get into that a little bit later on in the show. That there have been things that have gone wrong, and the caliber of the schedule early in the season can give you optimism moving forward. Of all of those things that have gone wrong, there's no way that those things are going to continue to go wrong. I think that those things are true. But even with that, even with the nuance and understanding that things probably aren't going to be as bad the rest of the season as it was in the first 4 weeks, I still don't think the Ravens can be considered a Super Bowl contender from what we've seen and what we know right now. That
Yeah.
defense is not Super Bowl caliber. You don't take care of the football, that's not Super Bowl DNA. You can't run the football with Derrick Henry the way they were able to do it last season. That's not Super Bowl DNA either. And it was Super Bowl or bust in Baltimore. So you have to start asking questions at the top. And it starts with John Harbaugh.
I think it's also fair to just say organizationally, like I have been really tough on the Bengals for the last several years because every year that they waste that they're not in the Super Bowl or in that conversation is a wasted year with Joe Burrow, who is one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL. Well, I want to hold that same standard to Baltimore. Like Lamar Jackson is a 2-time MVP, and there are people that work for Yahoo Sports that have said loudly that he's maybe the best quarterback we've ever seen at his age, right?
He could
There
have been a
is some
three-time
element.
MVP.
I mean, so at some point, every year that Baltimore doesn't have the pieces around him to win the Super Bowl, if I'm being fair and consistent, I need to be as harsh on Baltimore for wasting Lamar as I am on the Bengals for wasting Joe Burrow. And at this point, this season is starting to feel like it's teetering on the edge of becoming a waste. Now, do you believe that the Ravens are done, though? Because obviously 1-3, we said we wouldn't panic on Friday, but seeing the way 1-3 happened, are the Ravens left for dead?
No, they're not done yet, but it is getting there. We are approaching done territory. The season right now is kind of a seesaw that's teetering back and forth. They're not done because the division is very much so still winnable, although the Steelers keep winning. So the gap is getting a little bit larger. I still think that the Ravens, even with their issues, are the best team in that division, and that division is still winnable. But that being said, you're digging yourself into a hole, and it's not even just a hole that you can see in the standings. It's not even just a hole that we can see in the win-loss record and say, man, they just got unlucky and lost some of those games that they could have won. No, they're getting their butt whooped in some of these games. So the season's not done, but a lot of things need to change. And the way that we heard Harbaugh and Derrick Henry and Lamar Jackson talking about this team over the last couple of weeks, that's not the way that we hear the Ravens talk about themselves of we need to go back to the drawing board and we're not a good enough football team right now. That's not the Ravens that I know and that you know and that we all know.
Plenty of injury concern. We'll keep you updated if we get any updates. Lamar Jackson, for anyone that didn't see it, did leave last night's game with a hamstring injury. Shame on everybody out there on Twitter that's decided that maybe he was waving a white flag. We've done this before with Lamar. That's all I will say on this, Carolina, is we've done this before. When he was waiting for his contract and wanted his fully guaranteed money, people speculated that he was coming back from injury slower because he didn't want to put himself at risk, which we later found out was an asinine take, and he was putting his body through everything he possibly could. I don't want to do the same thing again. And if you're a Twitter conspiracy theorist that has a picture of where his leg was iced, I would just tell you, as someone that has literally torn 2 hamstrings and a tendon off of my kneecap, you can tear a hamstring anywhere, and where you have to ice it varies based on what the injury is. So, Twitter, sit down, shut up, and color in your books and give the man some respect instead of implying that Lamar Jackson is turning around and being anything less than available because you think some kind of way. That's all I have to say to Ravens fans. Are the Chiefs and Patrick Mahomes back?
Well, yes, but if you watch this show and listen to us talk about the Kansas City Chiefs over the last month, you would know that the Chiefs didn't really go anywhere. In order to be back, you have to go away. And over the last 4 weeks, we have talked about the Kansas City Chiefs. The fact that they were going to get better whenever Rashee Rice and Xavier Worthy came back from suspension and injury, respectively. That there was going to be more for this Chiefs offense to do and more tools for Patrick Mahomes to work with whenever those two came back. So I never really believed that the Chiefs went anywhere. Did it look bad? Yes. The offense stalled. Unfortunately, yes, it did. Was there a panic button being pressed in Kansas City? I'm sure to a certain extent, yes, there was. But we knew that this team was going to get better. And unfortunately, the Kansas City Chiefs tend to play with their food at the beginning of the season. They've done it the past couple of seasons. So Xavier Worthy comes back, and what do you know? The Chiefs offense has another level of speed to it, has another level of explosiveness to it. That Patrick Mahomes looks like the Patrick Mahomes that we know and that we love. That Xavier Worthy was able to make big plays through the air, big plays on the ground with a massive 35-yard run. So if you listen to us, you would have understood that this was probably coming, that the Chiefs offense was going to have another layer of explosiveness to it whenever they added explosive receivers back into the offense. Isn't it crazy how that works? But to answer your question, yes, the Chiefs are back. They never really ever went anywhere.
And to that end, one of my favorite exercises is take the brands off and take everything you think about the brands off and just make a statement. If I make the statement, team minus their 2 best wide receivers struggles offensively. Of course. Like, what did we expect? That's why this show has been consistent that the Chiefs are going to be just fine. Xavier Worthy comes back, and that's one piece. When they get Rashee Rice, it'll be an even bigger piece.
We had a 40-40 overtime tie on Sunday Night Football. I don't know how many times that has happened in NFL history, but I have to believe that it is an absolute statistical anomaly. And we like to adopt the theory of we talk about the winning team first, but there was no winning team in a tie last night, so I will talk about my biggest takeaway from the evening. Dak Prescott was absolutely fantastic. He was 31 of 40, 319 yards, 3 touchdowns, and added a touchdown on the ground as well, including a 28-yard touchdown pass to take the lead with less than a minute left in regulation. And also to add on top of that, just how impressive Dak Prescott was last night. He did it without CeeDee Lamb, his number 1 receiver, and he was without 2 interior offensive linemen in right guard Tyler Booker and center Cooper Beebe. But how frustrating is it that Dak Prescott had the night that he had? I think when we look back on Dak Prescott's career, whenever the day comes that he does decide to hang it up, we will look back on his performance last night as one of the best of his career. So how does all of that happen? How does Dak Prescott look as good as he looked in the Cowboys can't find a way to win? Well, that's what happens when your defense gives up 500 total yards of offense and 40 points. That's been the story of this Cowboys team all season long, that Dak can look great, that CeeDee Lamb can come up when George Pickens can come up with acrobatic catches like he did last night. And the defense can't get it together. The defense can't stop the run. The defense cannot stop the passing game. The defense can't get pressure on the quarterback. And that's exactly what you saw last night. The Dallas Cowboys defense is one of the worst in the NFL and is a liability for what looks like a really, really good Cowboys offense. But on the other side of things, Green Bay, I think you're just as frustrated. You're frustrated that you haven't been able to put all of the pieces together in back-to-back weeks. Last week, the Green Bay Packers defense was fantastic. It was stifling, held the Cleveland Browns to just 13 points, but Jordan Love and the offense couldn't come up with more than 10. This week, Jordan Love in the offense was humming. Josh Jacobs, 2 touchdowns. Jordan Love with over 300 yards passing, putting up 40 points. But the defense couldn't get that pressure on Dak Prescott. That Micah Parsons, yes, he got his revenge on his former team and was able to get a sack on Dak Prescott, but it didn't come until overtime. So I think you're looking at both of these teams, with different expectations. Green Bay, Super Bowl expectations. Dallas Cowboys, I guess we'll see. But both of these teams struggling to put all of the pieces together and play complementary football week over week. We'll see how a tie affects the standings in an incredibly deep NFC. But I'm sure everyone will be super, super chill fits about the who won the Micah Parsons trade today.